Now it's time for our rewind of the week. Ash and I are taking a look back at 1996 to Scream. Yes, the movie that launched this killer franchise, and all 4 films are currently available to view on Showtime. Ash, you have always been a diehard Scream fan. What does this franchise mean to you?
It is one of the most iconic, great franchises of all times, because not only is it like an actually great horror slasher, it is a satire of all scary movies. So it is a really funny, good, well-done movie. And I think it was so groundbreaking, especially because you had a casting of Drew Barrymore, who was one of the most famous actresses at this time. And she was all over the posters as the lead of Scream. And then people sit down and she dies in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And it turns out Neve Campbell is actually the star of Scream. People did not know that at the time. It was such an iconic heel turn to do on screen. Wes Craven was a freaking genius. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Wes. He really was such a visionary. You know, he and Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter of Scream, really worked so well hand in hand together to really just launch this, like you said, iconic franchise. And I really think that Scream is the first movie that taught me about the phrase meta.
Yeah.
And what it was like to be so aware of what was going on and the scary movie rules. And it was just such an amazing series. And there's so much history behind it all, which is why I'm so excited that these rumors of Scream 5 are kind of circling around out there. We're going to be teeing up some exclusive ET updates for you guys. But first, I kind of want to take a look back at Sidney Prescott, who we all know and love as the one and only Neve Campbell. But did you know, Ash, that Neve was not the first choice to play Sidney? So originally, like you said, Drew Barrymore was going to be the star of Scream. She was going to be playing Sidney, but she had some conflicts and had to drop out. And so she said, put me in the role of Casey at the beginning of the movie, have me get killed off, and no one will believe that that was supposed to happen.
You should never say who's there. Don't you watch scary movies?
Whatever you do, do not play a drinking game where you drink every time there's a pop culture reference in Scream, because you will die, and I don't want that to happen.
Big no-no!
As for other actresses who almost played Sidney, Reese Witherspoon was originally approached for the role. She never actually auditioned and it didn't work out. And also Molly Ringwald was once approached to take on the role of Sidney, but she said, hey, I'm 27. I'm a little too old to be playing a high schooler right now. So good on you, Molly.
Well, E.T. has some really interesting history with Scream as well, because Scream 3, by the way, was filmed on the Radford lot, which is the same place that E.T. shoots. And also Nancy O'Dell, our former host, our lady, was in 3 of the Scream movies.
No big deal.
So what kind of research did you do for the part?
E.T. has caught up with many of the Scream stars throughout the years, but our 3 leading ladies from that first one, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and Drew Barrymore, yeah, here's what they had to say.
I think it says a lot for this genre now. You know, Scream has really made a difference, because in the olden days when these films were going on, it was sort of the low man on the totem pole would do this kind of film, and I think people were so happy and enthusiastic about the first that Hollywood was knocking on Wes's door to do this one.
These are great. I think this one was really different and fun, and it's funny, smart. The first 20 pages or 30 pages of the script to me were I just couldn't stop. I just kept turning the page and I was really enthralled in it. And I just liked the character.
It was amazing for me because when I watched the film, I was actually scared because the scene is so scary. I mean, it is so scary that even though I was in it, I was there, I knew everything that was going on, the mechanics and everything, it was still just a flat out scary scene. And I was so glad, because I mean, that's why I chose that role, because it was one of the best written scenes I've ever read in my life.
Well, let's talk about some of our favorite scene stealers, our favorite fun facts about this movie. One of my favorite ones was the original title was actually Scary Movie, which of course went on to be the parody version of Scream.
know.
But Scream and Scary Movie are iconic back-to-back viewing.
Another fun fact that I really loved about Scream was that it was partially based off of real life events. Now, the screenwriter, Kevin Williamson, was watching a program late at night, and he got so scared that he went around his home and made sure that all the windows were closed, and then he called up a buddy of his to kind of calm down, and then they started talking about scary movies. And then that same night, he woke up at like 3 or 4 a.m. and wrote the iconic opening scene. And then 3 days later, he finished the entire Scream script.
One of my favorite things, a lot of people forget that Henry Winkler, aka the Fonz, is in Scream as the principal. But there's a couple of Happy Days references in Scream. So when he opens the closet, his leather Fonzie jacket is actually in the closet. And there's also another shot where he kind of fixes his hair a la the Fonz. That's one of my favorite ones. And then the final scene, the iconic, getting a little woozy here.
I'm feeling woozy here.
Took 21 nights to shoot.
Oh my gosh.
2-minute final act, taking place entirely during the party, Stu's house, 21 nights.
That sounds like the longest night.
The cast and crew actually called it the longest night in horror history.
It was worth it. That party was wild.
Yeah, do not have a party when there's a killer on the loose, guys.
Especially do not have a party if Matthew Lillard is going to be running around it in a ghost face mask.
That was an interesting setup, Leanne, because guess who I talked to?
Who, Ash?
Matthew Lillard. If somebody came to you and was like, we have this idea for you to come back in some way.
I am available.
Yeah, okay.
I am available. I don't know if, I would love to come back. You know, originally I was supposed to be the killer in Scream 3.
I do not think I knew that.
Yeah, Scream 3 was originally conceived that Stu was running a collection of kids in high school that did horrible things. And right before we went into production, Columbine High School broke out. And the world changed. And so they changed the script and Stu is not in it. So I would like to argue on behalf of the Stu fans out there that he is still alive. You gotta have a sequel!
Scream 5. There have been rumors for many, many, many years. The last movie, Scream 4, came out in 2011. Here we are 9 years later. Do you think that Scream 5 is a possibility?
This is a really interesting thing because Wes Craven is like the daddy of the Scream franchise. He's actually the only director to oversee an entire slasher franchise. So with Scream 5, this obviously Wes Craven passed away in 2015. So this would be a Scream 5 sans Wes Craven, which is a really, kind of interesting thing is like, do we want that to happen? But I am so in love with this franchise that I think there's a space for it to still exist, and I would love to see Scream 5. But not only would we like to see Scream 5, so would a lot of the original cast.
Yes, we caught up with Neve Campbell and David Arquette and asked them if we could see Sydney and Dewey come back for Scream 5, and here's what they had to say.
There is definitely a Scream 5 in the works. They're writing it. I love playing Dewey, so I'd always love to be a part of it. But I don't know.
The conversations are being had, that's for sure. There was a lot of talk about it. I wasn't sure it was going to happen, and then I was approached about 6 weeks ago.
So here's a controversial question.
Yes.
What is your Scream ranking?
Okay, well, I'm really glad that you asked me this because I watched 3 and 4 for the first times this weekend. And I was blown away by how much I truly enjoyed 4. So my official Scream ranking right now is 1, 4, 2, 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I thought that they did a really great job with 4 and made it fresh and fun. And I thought that they had a really fun cast and kind of elevated it even further. So I'm sticking with that. But I've got to know, you've loved this franchise for so many years. What is your official Scream ranking?
I am so happy that you gave Scream 4 the love it deserves because a lot of people shred that movie. And I think it is just so good. I think Emma Roberts was so freaking good in that movie. So I go Scream 1, obviously, Scream 2, Scream 4, Scream 3.
I love that we're in agreement. The 3 is the lowest.
My problem with Scream 3 is that they do so much that takes you out of it completely. And like, I know it's a satire, but since it was a Miramax film, there's a moment where Jay and Silent Bob show up as actual Jay and Silent Bob. Like, it's not Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes on the set or whatever. They're playing Jay and Silent Bob. It drives me crazy.
Dude, I think she likes me now. See how she's looking at me?
And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a fan of when things are meta, but when they're ultra meta, it takes me too far out of it.
Too many metas, but respect for Scream 4. Give it the love it deserves.
But now Ash and I are dying to know your Scream ranking. Tweet us your order of the films that you enjoy with #StreamQueens.
And of course, we want to know what you're binging, so let us know, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.